This is my road, let it roll. Pack my dreams in a beat up leather case, left the dust of that suffocating place. They said a girl like me should stay in line, but I'd rather lose their map than lose my mind. Tune the radio to stay playing wild and free. Windows down, smelling like the pine trees. 500 miles and I'm just getting started. Say goodbye to the heavy-hearted. Oh, nobody's holding the reins tonight. I'm chasing the edge of the morning light. This is my highway, my open sky. I've got the wings and I'm ready to fly. No yellow lines can tie me down. I'm leaving my tracks all over this town. Freedom, freedom, yeah. Now they call me an outlaw, call me a breeze, shaking the leaves right off of the trees. Ain't no speed limits on the choices I make, with every single risk that I happily take. Got a heart like an engine, loud and true, writing my own rules. Nothing brand new, just an old soul singing with the modern beat, dusting off the pavement under my feet. This is my highway, my open sky. I've got the wind, can tie me down. I'm leaving my tracks all over this town. Freedom, freedom, yeah, ooh, yeah. And if I get lost in the dark of the night, I know my own stars will show me the light. No more shadows to cover my face. I'm running my pace, I'm winning my race. Freedom, yeah, just let it roll.
All right, y'all. We are doing enough. Kohberger taking back the guilty plea. Kohberger talks. All right. And of course, the G family says that he is a narcissist. This is the freaking headlines right now, guys. Can you believe this? Can you believe this? I just do hope, and I pray, of course, as a believer, that he knows what he's doing. Because if you didn't read, and if you didn't see the headlines, and if you didn't see the official court filing, which I'll show you, feel free to call in. Whether you are for this or against this, this is your opportunity to set the record straight. And some of these responses to the news from the G's are despicable. And I'm going to call it out. I'm going to call it out. Because if there's something going on behind the scenes, people need to know. We have been extremely diligent on what we found based on facts and evidence, court records, crime scene. That's why we come together here in the nest. We are here and we see things that people miss. The nesters, y'all freaking never miss it. Okay? You never miss it. But I just have to shout out to every single one of you that has been on the race with me over this last year and a couple of months, because we have always brought the facts, not the news before speculation. We have always waited for the facts to come out and then speculated on those facts. If it could be this, if it could be that, if it could be true, if this could be true. Does this connect? Does this have a nexus? Is there some type of connection? What's the bridge? Is there physical or financial backing? So we have always come here for the truth. And we have always made a safe space for believers, non-believers, those who do not know about our justice system, people who have never heard this case before, people that are overseas that are watching behind the scenes. Now, his claim, Brian Kohberger, his claim of innocence versus the sworn plea record. Okay? The post-sentencing manifest injustice standard and he's willing to risk the death penalty to obtain a trial. What does that tell you? What does that tell you? Write it in the words that he would take his plea deal, would rather face the death penalty to obtain a trial. Okay? Do me a favor, and what does that look like to you? Type it below, because I'm going to welcome all you OGs in here. Caleb, welcome in. We have made it a safe place. My mods have been amazing. Nikki, welcome in. Non-stop, not giving up. Believe me, guys, there was 3 massive times that my mods know I was about to give up and walk away. But the more information that came out, the more digging that I did, the more that I saw things for what it was, I couldn't quit. I just couldn't quit. Sarah, you're not missing the block party. Come on in, honey. Grab your drinks, your green tea, and protein balls. Yum. Cookie dough high protein balls. Happy freaking getting my iced coffee for this one, Jennifer says. Yes, this is a pregame fireball. Let's make a bet. Who's going to route out whom first? KSJ busted. Oh, that's a great one, Caleb. That is a great one. Who is going to rat first? I've got some options for you guys, okay? I've got some options. Let's just say we're going to hypothetically think about this one. We're not here, and I have to just give you the disclaimer. We're not here to accuse, slander, or defame anyone. This is for informational commentary, education purposes. And also, I do have to I do have to put up also, we are not looking to copyright anyone. That is not our intention. The news is out there. I've got a couple of really good pictures that I'm going to share. We're going to get into our book club of the month is August. How odd that I picked up this book and I said, this is our book. This is our book. This is our book, guys. Let me see. All right, here we go. Here we go. This is going to be wild. All right, let's take a bet. Who's going to rat first? Hunter, Emily, Dylan, or Bethany Bob Ross Jr.? Which one do you think is going to rat out? And make sure you grab that frame book. You can buy it used. And remember, this content is not legal, medical, or professional advice. Viewers should do their own research and form their own conclusions by watching. You acknowledge the discussion is all alleged, speculative, and subject to disclaimer minus the truth and the facts. Who do you think is going to rat first? Nothing stated here is to accuse, defame, slander, or harm any entity or organization. All individuals are presumed innocent unless proven in a court of law. I know emotions are high right now. Drop it in the chat. 1, Hunter, if you think he's going to rat first. 2, Emily, Dylan, or Bethany. Who do you think? And why did I choose those 4? Well, Dylan and Bethany have had some really odd behaviors and responses that the normal, logical person, even in this situation, right? Because cops are supposed to be logical even in their assessments. I'm just saying. in my opinion. But keep in mind, guys, Hunter and Emily had similar bloody L5, L6 prints on the sliding black door. We brought that to you first, but no one wants to talk about it. Why is that? And then we have Dylan. And we are going to do a deep dive tomorrow into a few things on Dylan, which I haven't done, and I have waited for the proper time. Now, yesterday I told you, last night, if you guys look, I posted it 12 hours ago. The secret is out. All right? I did post that 16 hours ago right here. I said the secret is out and it's shocking. How many people were paying attention? I thought it was going to be all over yesterday. It wasn't, because they didn't release it till today. Am I shocked? No, not really. We were hoping it was coming. Am I stunned at how many people that knew and didn't share? Probably. 16 hours ago, right there. If you saw it live this morning when I was live and someone said, oh my God, Brian Kohberger's going to take back his guilty plea. I looked everywhere and didn't see anything online until I went to my email and I had an email there from the New York Times. See, I do a search. And in that Google, you can set parameters for keywords. Of course, Kohberger is a keyword. But it didn't come up in my keywords on Google because they basically said, the man convicted in Idaho. They didn't say Brian Kohberger, it just said man. Slipped by me, but not under the radar, thanks to my subscription for the New York Times. You guys are at 90% Bethany is going to rat these people out. And 10% Dylan. I think Dylan got some type of deal. I really do. I really do. We are hopeful for this. Now, I've got some information for you that I want to share. Don't bring out the champagne and the fireworks yet. Let's stay logical because he's going to need a lot of support. We need to talk about it because there are people already running their mouth. The Elbridge is all over calling Turvey a turd and disrespectful, and I'm here for that. I'm here to watch this. I'd call, but my toddler's wild. Hey, it's wild over here too. There she is, 7,777th. Nestor was Tammy. Yes, she was. Have you spent your $77.77 yet? Bethany posted 2 videos. The date of this indictment and the date that was filed in order she's coming out. Wow, you know what? It's interesting you said that because I did some background. When I saw her first picture, I immediately knew it was the Teton Mountains. And so she's got to be somewhere either in Wyoming, maybe. Lulu Bell, welcome in. Becca, Brandy, Patty, Mantra. Dina, howdy. Voluntary is, what is it? Voluntary is miss the answer. Phoenix, what a day to be alive. We're seeing it here. We all can make a difference. Keep writing letters. Keep writing the people who write these articles. My personal opinion, I think Dylan, the roommate, had something to do with it. That is your opinion. Absolutely your opinion. And it's wild. The book, The Broken Plea, is pointing, hey, everybody should take a look at Dylan. This man knows something, and it screams innocent. Truth will always come to light. Heard it here first. Yeah, we just happened to be live. Hello, Tammy. I found a past tenant of 1330. Yep, he got 5 Medicaid fraud charges. Yep, I saw that on the Fed site. So glad you stayed. Yep, came back. I listen to you folks. Even though you don't think I do, I listen. And we don't give up. Protein balls, no thanks. Oh, you would die. It tastes like cookie dough. It's edible, guys. It's high protein and it's delish. It is absolutely delish. So a lot of people are, somebody's shaking in their shoes. People are going to be yipping and yapping. And I'm telling you, when they said, oh, we have to wait 10 years, no innocent person, factually innocent person should have to wait 4 years, 10 years. They won't get a chance to the rat race. It's so fudged, they won't be prosecuted. Well, somebody's going to have to answer to this crime. Bethany has been in the chats. Well, welcome up, Bethany. You're welcome to dial on in. If you got something to say, let the world know, because Brian Kohberger is not going to sit in jail and take the heat for someone. I think Lana said 2 days ago, it's the 27th in a late night live. Awesome. Bethany will talk because first they already gave her immunity. So yeah, I could not sit and watch this knowing an innocent man, an autistic man at that. So let's get into this. Dylan will say everything Veronica said and nothing in the same sentence. I thought Bethany had immunity. Well, we don't know for sure. That's been a big rumor. I've never seen it written in any court document. It says 12 p.m., 1122 in their white Ford Inspector utility SUV. Yeah, I think it is like this morning I said that I believe it is the University of Idaho patrol car. And I've been digging in the MPD to see when Blaker said he arrived on scene. So stay tuned for that answer. Hi, Phoenix. It was great having you in the chat this morning when the news broke. Thanks for debunking the false rumor a while back that he had filed a pill. Absolutely. Thank God. Now we see it in the repository. I showed that to you as soon as I went there this morning. It is fabulous that we have some truth to what we're seeing, and we have receipts. Thank you, Mike Baker, who broke this story. And thank you to all those who have been emailing every single individual, writing these articles, sharing factual information. And I mean, without you guys, we wouldn't have been able to see it, right? It's right in the Idaho court. It's right here in the details. Let me share that. So it is in writing. It is now in the repository. Here are the details for you to see yourself. I did a video, but not everybody gets the videos. It says it is active, it is pending, and Hippler must take action on this filing. Now, guys, here's the problem. And this is what we need to have some clarity on. And Kathy may be able to help us. Thanks for being in the chat, Kathy. Brian Kohberger is representing himself. He filed his petition pro se, which means I'm going to represent myself. Okay? And that basically is a challenge in front of the courts. He is not an attorney. He does not know the process. He has probably gone to law clinics inside of the prison if they have allowed him. And one thing I want to talk about here. What do you think he was promised? Write it down below in the chat. What do you think he was promised? Will I close out this final poll in 3, 2, 1? 91% of us, whew, that's a lot, decided 91% that Bethany will sing and maybe Dylan. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. So he is going to be fighting an uphill battle by himself. He filed this, and hopefully, in the meantime, an attorney will be filing a motion to appear, an appearance, and we'll be able to see something. Now, I've requested the post-conviction relief, but we do have a few documents here to share. In a post I made, all the documents are right there. And it does say that, let me see if I can make this larger. You can see it's kind of like chicken scratch, but he basically has done a summary. And he has to write an affidavit. That is a sworn statement under oath of penalty also, that he says, being duly sworn an oath, deposes and says, it is hereby declare that during a attorney-client discussion, most of, it's kind of hard to read his writing, included all members of Brian C. Kohberger's immediate family. Petitioner was convinced to falsely confess to capital murder and felony burglary by coercion. Now, remember his original documents he filed, and he marked no, and then he marked yes or no. Okay? Remember when he filed those original documents, and there was another line on there I always was confused with because he didn't give an answer. It wasn't a complete admission. And disinformation, false promises. What did they promise, Kohberger? Let's see what some of the comments you guys put. Someone high profile will pick it up. I hope so. He has a motion to have appellate counsel represent him filed. Oh, good. Hippler will likely rule on that before anything. I'm expecting counsel to be appointed and an amended petition. Yeah, Kathy, I was thinking the same thing. I'm thinking an amended petition will be filed for the PCR, and it will be more legal friendly, right? Legal friendly, because you have to amend that petition. There has to be some stated law in there. But guys, he got the ball rolling. He got the ball starting, especially when you are up against people that do not want the truth out there. Brian Kohberger is up against a huge system. A huge system. Yes, Lulu Bell. Absolutely. And this rumor that was a rumor a little while ago that they took him on a tour of the death penalty 8x8 cell and a tour of the prison. Oh my goodness. Yes. I was thinking of these three cases. Well, two of these cases. I was thinking of the WSU that was filed, and I was thinking about Ashley Gilliard this morning, especially with that $10 million verdict, right? And it is being appealed. We saw she did make a comment on my channel. She says, I am definitely appealing. We saw that appeal come through, and we seen the EWU and the city of Moscow forcing them to hand over those audios, videos, body cams, whatever they want. And I think we're seeing a little bit of truth come out. Absolutely. Absolutely. So we happened to break the news when we were on live this morning because a fabulous OG had posted, oh my God, did you see the news? I'm like, no, searching all over the web for it, nothing. I went to my email. The New York Times was there. I read it. We listened to the audio of it really quick. And it was absolutely crazy on a live this morning. Now, here's the problem. He's going to get an appellate attorney in Idaho if he doesn't have the means to pay for an attorney out of pocket. So, mom and dad, if you are listening and Brian needs help, which I know many of the family members listen, if he needs help, you need to find an attorney that will take a retainer and also an appellate attorney. You're going to have to get a legal trust established through that attorney so we can champion and out here with bullhorns and everything we have to get donations to pay for an attorney. He needs to have a private attorney, somebody licensed in the state of Idaho that can definitely go up against this system in Idaho. 100%. We all need to be on the same page for justice. And if there was no further testing, as Brian Kohberger says, after the false promises, I mean, what's the first thing that came to my mind when they said false promises? Did they promise him he would be in touch with his family, get email, have access to the media, have access to whatever he needed to, the law libraries? Was he promised better meals? Was he, because I'm telling you guys, the defense could make all the promises in the world. The prosecution could make all the promises in the world. Just take this plea deal. Take the death penalty off the table. But the moment that you get in prison, guess who makes the decisions? The warden, the guards. That's who make the decisions. Did they coerce him into a plea deal? I've always felt that there was something off about the plea deal. We were all stunned. Everyone who was watching from the TikTok days with me and Bertie all the way to the channel, we were all stunned. I didn't want to write it. I didn't want to believe it. And then when Brian Enton said it, I'm like, who told him? That had to have been the leak. And then he goes on to say false promises and the withholding of evidentiary discovery. Oh, does it say, wait. What does that say? Exculpatory discovery. The following is the material of the inception of the plea. Inform the petitioner of it. He failed to, oh my gosh, and didn't give him this evidence? That's essentially what he's saying. Someone didn't get, whose responsibility was it to give them this evidence? Think about that one. Who was responsible to give them the evidence? Isn't that clearly the state? Absolutely. I would say the state has to hand over everything, and 21 times they wouldn't. Let me share this, and then maybe we could read it a little bit bigger. I think this will be better. And this is exactly what he says. His own words. Here we go. That's better, I think. Yeah, it's awesome, but it is scary. And he was betrayed somehow. I think Anne was threatening, etc. Turvey was right. Hair in Ethan's hand. One saying clump, somebody saying hair. Did they test it? He was in prison and he was videotaping. Civil rights issue as far as I'm concerned. My opinion only. I value your opinion, Kathy. Believe me, Phoenix has done her homework, and I think you're an amazing woman. Amazing ex-attorney. I really do. And look at this. Let me just take my little thing off of here. I don't know how that got on there. Well, I'll just leave it. And he basically says during plea discussions, namely discovery, during plea discussions, namely clumps of hair in Ethan's hands. So he didn't know that at the time and didn't write anything of that per se. So is that new exculpatory evidence, as well as failure to further inquiry about the hair? Now, they tested and they said that the hair was not, well, they didn't test. They microscopically looked at this hair and said it doesn't resemble Brian Kohberger's, right? Doesn't resemble Brian Kohberger's. Well, whose was it? Petitioner was, let me just look back and see if I can see this. Petitioner was convinced that actual guilt was not as an important factor in considering plea acceptance. Petitioner was convinced that actual guilt was not an important factor in considering plea acceptance. You got to be kidding me. As many times as Anne said, factually innocent. Death row was imminent and advised to lie. He was advised to lie? I mean, this is a sworn statement. See, this goes before you and God, right? Before the judge, that you swear on the Bible, I'm here to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth. He puts his hand on the Bible and says, this is the truth. I was told to lie. By who? Who told him to lie? Wow. That deserves a freaking fireball. And this is going to get this.
You are the greatest of all time.
I'm going to put you in that drawing, Sarah. You know that we have the drawing for July. You are in it officially with that comment. Cy Ray came out intentionally, factually wrong in his interview to not be involved in the PCR. Sarah, you are spot on. All strategically planned. Somebody is under investigation. Remember, we've never heard about who the leak was. What's the status of the investigation? There is factually no more records that have been released. We are still waiting for the unsealing of many records. And I think, honestly, in my humble opinion, remember, I'm no attorney, I'm no legal expert, but in the dealings that I've had, I believe they want to seal everything now. They don't want anything else to come out because enough has already come out to shake the trees. And those people that are guilty of this crime are probably shaken and going to start ratting each other out. I wouldn't be surprised if some of these people went to other countries or went into hiding. I wouldn't be shocked. I hope they pulled everybody's passports. I hope that there is something going behind the scenes that these people are literally shaking. I hope so. So Kohberger goes on to say, death row was imminent. I was advised to lie. I just can't get that past that. I mean, in this case, petitioner was given a legal victory in entering a false plea. Holy moly. Oh my God. Oh my gosh. I'm no expert, but a legal victory refers to a favorable outcome achieved by a party in a court case, regulatory proceeding, or other formal dispute resolution process. It typically confirms the validity of any claim or defense, affirms rights or interest, and establish a legal precedent. You have to be kidding me. The ends justify the means. You have to be freaking kidding me. Holy freak. And then he says, a gross misrepresentation of and promises regarding what a life sentence would immediately afford petitioner, and a gross what did they tell him it was going to be? Dude, life in prison is not a cakewalk, right? I mean, it's just not. And a gross misrepresentation of death row in Idaho, including an elaborate fabricated story of, what does that say? Of, I can't read this. COUN consensus counsel's horrific experience touring an actual 8x8. And then let me go to the next page. This is wild, folks. How in the world did they even get away with this just judicial misconduct? This has to be misconduct. It has to be. I mean, what does he have that's going to prove his innocence and that he was coerced to take this plea deal? What was he given? I'm just wondering. Let me take this one off and I'm going to put the other one on the screen. And it says, all right, by IDOC. How can they even make him a promise? Through counsel, thus constituting threats and promises made to induce a plea agreement. What in the heck did they even promise him? I want to know. Inquiring minds want to know. It does sound prosecutorial misconduct. It does sound that way. Fear of threatening. I'm so far behind. If anybody want to call in and voice your opinion on this, good or bad? I mean, I've been seeing all kinds of crap all over the streets of TikTok, internet. Thanks to everyone, Kathy says, who kept this case going. Supreme Court and Hunter acknowledge the public's important role in what the public thinks about the judicial system. Absolutely. First Amendment right lives on. Abso-freaking-lutely, Kathy. I would agree. And we have those constitutional rights. And as a defendant in a couple of cases, even criminal, and it was dismissed and removed from the repository because they had a big F up and they knew I was going to sue Idaho. And as a defendant who has won massive judgments for wrongdoing, I will say we have a right to due process. We have a right. I know family members are watching. And thank you to the one individual that told me the G family met on Friday. They had to have known this was coming this weekend. They had to have known. He probably gave notice. Hey, guys, you won't help me file, and this is speculative. You won't help me file. I'm going to file myself. And that's what it feels like to me. It feels like his mother could write an affidavit of what? Yeah, absolutely. If they were present, like he's saying, my mom was present. My mom heard. Yeah, my mom is going to go beat up your mom. Ha, it's a joke. I'm just saying. The meetings were with his family. Why take that public humiliation if he is not guilty? And the response from the G family is, you guys, grab a drink for this one. And I'm not saying an alcoholic beverage. I'm just saying sit down. If you haven't seen this, you're probably not shocked. They are going to have a fight on their hands. And all of these people commenting, firing squad, let's go. Disgusting behavior. So they write, I don't know who wrote this, but they write, first off, we are not surprised. This was 2 hours ago before I left for my appointment. I came back, so many of you have probably seen this. Even though, oh, wow, Kathy, you are more than welcome to come up. We've got Kathy on stage. Hey, Kathy.
Hey, Phoenix. It's so good to finally speak with you. I think that we've been following each other for a very long time. And I was thrilled this morning to share the news and so happy that you joined and shared your thoughts because you were one of the people who immediately debunked some false rumors that were going around that got people really thinking that there was an appeal when there was no appeal. So I want to thank you for everything that you're doing for the community and for what you've shared and what I've learned from you as well.
Oh, you were awesome. Our community really appreciates you. I appreciate you coming up. Now, let me ask you, Kathy, a question, if I may.
Sure.
In your opinion, is this going to be a long battle ahead for Brian Kohberger?
Now I have to, just I did a little bit of criminal work very, very early in my legal career. I'm retired now. I've been retired for a number of years. And I did a little bit of it. It was misdemeanor work. Okay. No experience in felony work. But as someone who's followed true crime for decades, and as someone, I think I know this case fairly well from my podcast because I've reported on it as it happened. I think it's going to be a long process. What I'm anticipating has to happen first, Phoenix, is Judge Stephen J. Hippler is going to have to resolve this motion for appointment of appellate counsel, which we knew that he might be doing because the petition that the state of Idaho gives to incarcerated individuals that we published about a month ago, that's one of the questions. Are you wanting appellate counsel? So I think that it would be a big mistake if Hitler denied that. Just my gut. So that's number one, expecting appellate counsel to be appointed. Then, as you very correctly stated, I mean, there needs to be a little bit more added to this petition. So it's probably going to be an amended petition that'll be coming. And that's where we'll see all the citations. And then I expect the state is going to fight this tooth and nail. They'll get the attorney general involved again, whatever resources they need to spend, and they will oppose the evidentiary hearing. And then Judge Hippler has to make a decision whether or not there is sufficient facts. Just looking at it, it looks like he did a pretty darn good job to cite to Garza versus Idaho Standard, the 2019 SCOTUS case. And this may be the first one under Hunter versus United States.
Mm-hmm. I was, yeah.
So
I was
all
thinking that too, some type of precedence.
Absolutely. So, you're looking at the next few months just dealing with this. And Hippler could decide to throw out the conviction and just throw it all out after he sees what he sees, or order this evidentiary hearing, then you'll see declarations. You may see people on the stand. I think he's going to have a lot of questions. I asked you if this was your free will, if you had been promised anything. So we have to expect those questions are going to come from Judge Hippler.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that, the ineffective assistance of counsel has got to trump everything. Phoenix, one thing that I will never understand if I live to be 150 years old is why and how, if defense asserted for more than 2.5 years that they did not have discovery,
Mm-hmm.
that they got discovery in a big, but I could just see it, a big pile, not labeled, looking for a needle in the haystack. I mean, up to the 26th, I think it was, one of the last orders that Hippler denied in terms of adjourning the trial date because of the hit pieces, like the Dateline NBC story at the
Mm-hmm.
time of final pretrial conference. She even said there in that motion, we don't have discovery, and I would be ineffectively assisting my client if we don't get it. And then at change of plea, he asks her point blank, does your client have all the discovery? And she said yes. And people have said, oh, that was just a way for her to buy time. That was you cannot, and I'm sure you know this, you
Mm-hmm.
cannot, as a licensed attorney, lie to a court. You've got to show candor to the tribunal. She said yes. So right?
Well, Kathy, let me ask you, why would she say yes? And then we have this PCR file today, and he's basically saying they lied. Do you think that his admission is that Ann Taylor lied to the court?
I think that that's what he is absolutely saying here, because he's going. Remember what Dr. Turvey had indicated during his interviews. He's saying that it came as a surprise to him, and he's talking directly about the hair in Ethan's hand. And we saw hair. We all saw it on the floor. How could that not be? And he's making like he knew nothing about it. And it just seemed like there was such a rush. I kept calling it, where's the fire? That I could understand that they had to have a change of plea because they were getting ready to bring in all of these proposed members of the jury. But where's the fire? The 23rd, you don't have any sort of interventions. You don't look at that form that he filled out, Phoenix,
Right.
of constitutional rights, and say he scribbled this out. He's saying he was recently diagnosed, with mental health conditions. Why wasn't a psychologist, a mental health professional brought in to make sure he understood? So I think he's going to have some battles, but I think he has some good arguments. I think this case is going to be litigated for the next several years to come. I think it's not going to be something that's going to happen overnight. I think Idaho is going to put up a ferocious front, and then depending if Hippler allows this thing to move forward, then there may be some negotiations behind the scenes. We don't know.
Right.
It could go on. There's a lot, but what I am grateful for is that he did get this in today, and he did a fantastic job, pro se, if you ask me.
Absolutely. I would have to agree. Kathy, you are absolutely amazing. I know that this may be a little bit of a long road uphill battle, but hopefully he will get the support he needs because going in with an attorney, an appellate attorney, is going to be a tough battle of your peers watching and waiting to see what's going to happen in this case.
But look, it could also be a tremendous, which I think Ann Taylor was looking at. This case could have, made or broken her. She went out midstream into private practice.
Mhm.
Imagine the attorney who might be able to uncover possibly one of the most dramatic and disconcerting. We don't know what's under seal, but that's a problem that we don't know what's under seal, in my opinion. That's been my biggest problem with this case. It's been a year plus, and like you very correctly said, most of this case is still under seal. We don't have anything from 2024, 2023, or the end of 2022. It is all under seal still. Why?
Well,
Why?
obviously, they don't want us to know. They don't want us to see. And the less we know, the less we see, the better it is for them in the long run, right? Because I mean,
I-
can you
yeah.
imagine the kind of filings that he can have against the state of Idaho in the future?
Well, I think that that's what Mr. Ray, who was, and I'll tell you something. I called out Cy Ray a year and a half ago. When I saw that alibi defense, I said, what is he doing? He is an expert witness. His lane to be in is CSLI or whatever it was. And now he's going to be part of the alibi defense where you have got to have someone who saw you. Maybe it's classically somebody that's at work and the manager comes in and says, no, no, no. The defendant here was my employee, and here's videotape from him being at work, where here's tickets. I was on a plane to Paris. No, they're going to do it through Cy Ray's testimony.
Mhm.
Okay, so listen to what he was planning on, what they were planning on doing. He was going to testify that the state's CSLI was incorrect. That's one thing. But now to say that he was somewhere, and that's why I put out a series of videos about a year and a half ago where I got my head on my platter saying he stopped standing silent for this. Cy Ray was going to get on the stand and convince that jury, or try to, that Mr. Kohberger could not have been the person who committed these crimes because he was elsewhere. And now I heard what I heard on the Custody Queens a week and a half ago. Have you ever in your life, Phoenix, heard of a defense expert or a defense counsel going out into public and saying that their client was guilty? What I've said from the beginning is, if he felt that way, why didn't he quit the case? What is he still
Right.
doing? Does he want business? Because I didn't hear of Cy Ray before this case. Did you, Phoenix?
No, never. I mean, never. Even the homework and the history that I've done on him, I'm shocked that he would ever first in the history to go to the defense, to represent the defense. That was the only case he's ever represented. And perhaps he's putting out there, I'm not meant to work with the defense. Maybe I'm only supposed to work with the prosecution. And then he has this whole new book, this whole new thing that you can be certified or whatever. And it's like, wait a minute. Was that to get on the biggest case to be the defense and say that this guy's guilty when he was not even exactly in his own lane? Just-
Phoenix, great way to put it. I feel the same way. I mean, no one heard of him. There was and you know what? Who knows if this would have gone to trial, if Hitler is the gatekeeper as to what expert gets before the jury or not. Having been called what he was called, there was no love lost between Hitler and Cy Ray. I think Cy Ray had a lot of respect, or I think Judge Hitler had a lot of respect for Dr. Turvey based on a few reports that I've seen. But this case is, yes, he is a hostile
Hostile
witness.
witness, yeah.
Oh, yeah, Caleb. But I don't understand how if he knew that Kohberger was going to move for post-convict, what the heck are you doing? Harming his chances by giving your opinion. Number one, you were not the trial. You were not the trier that's his problem too. I called him arrogant. I called him, I didn't understand what the defense. I must have had 1,000 people stop following me in about 3 weeks. I did, and it was like, hey, I'm sorry. I said, I got to call. I don't care if this is state Cy Ray. This is making no sense to me. And now today, a year and a half later, I realize why it makes no sense for me. That, he was not, I don't think he had a pure heart when he took this on, possibly. That's my opinion that I give under the First Amendment. But at the point that he had access to a lot of confidential information because Kohberger hired him. Not Ann Taylor. Ann Taylor's hiring him for Kohberger. That's who he works for. And then you're
Mm.
going to go out there when he's filing for post-conviction relief and say he's guilty in your opinion? I don't get it, Phoenix.
Well, what are they going to say now that he filed? They had to have known. I think it was a strategic move for Ray to come on social media and not any other channel, not any other way or means of communication in the media, and then throw this out there right before this happens.
Right before. You're right. I mean, that interview was less than 2 weeks ago. And I
Right.
said to myself, you know what this is reminding me of? This is reminding me of the final pretrial conference when all of a sudden the mainstream media starts swarming. I didn't hear one of them say on the Dateline special, any of the documentaries, that Mr. Kohberger enjoys a presumption of innocence under
Innocence.
our
Mhm.
Constitution. And you know what? Thank goodness for it. And there is one content creator went out and admonished him, called him guilty, everything else. He went to Delphi and stood outside of that little courtroom and screamed at Mr. Allen, "Why'd you do it? Why'd you do it?" Well, he's standing charges right now for
Yeah.
that in you know what? I don't want to give his name, a misdemeanor case, right? But it's
Mhm.
domestic. Why didn't he plead guilty? Hey, according to him, once you're charged, you're guilty. Oh, no, no, no. He wants his full due process rights. He's hired an attorney. He's entered a plea of not guilty.
Correct.
You know, I don't get it. I don't get people who fight the fact that we do have due process, and we should kiss the ground that we walk on, that we do. We don't want to be in a country
Absolutely.
we don't have it. What do you think,
Absolutely.
Phoenix? I'm very interested in your position relative to why now? Why do you think Ray came out now to make this bomb? And I love the Phoenix bombs, by the way.
The fireballs.
I think they're great. Why now? Why now,
Um,
Phoenix?
I think, in my humble opinion, it's because the silence was broken. When we saw Turvey, well, when we see Chris come out after he did the book, then we see Turvey come out, and I was just waiting for that other shoe to drop, right? I was waiting for someone to come out and, the negative stuff against Turvey and Whitcomb. And waiting, and then I thought we were gonna get Ray a lot earlier, right behind these two, but
Right.
then they delayed it, and once that silence was broken, I think, in my humble opinion, Kohberger had nothing left to do but then to speak up.
He's got to. I mean, he had this deadline loom. I mean, he could have waited until next
Mhm.
month, but you got to give time to get this appointment of appellate counsel and to get the amended petition in. And Phoenix, what do you think about this? Right on the eve of this Netflix special. Are
Yeah,
they going to be able to go ahead? Or are they going to have to write as a disclaimer, oh, Mr. Kohberger has filed for post-conviction relief?
I doubt they will, but if they did the right thing, that would be a right direction for the media to begin to base it off of factual court documents, right?
Absolutely. How
And
about, or what about, hey, here's a novel idea. What about the law? You know,
yeah,
Phoenix, there are, the Fox News, all of the usual perpetrators have come out. There's, oh, now he wants to withhold his plea deal or to take back.
Mhm.
Withdraw. It was like, hello, in case you didn't get the memo, June 18th, the Supreme Court of the United States, 8-1, instituted a new standard for when people enter plea agreements, waive their appellate rights. And the amicus briefs were astounding. Everyone wrote in favor of Hunter. One group said, we have done studies, and 56% of people who plead guilty to things they didn't do it because they're afraid of the unknown. They can't fight. They don't have the resources to fight. Another one said that, hey, the public, our country was set up that the public is supposed to be the overseer, checks and balances system. What is this? This is like horse trading to go behind closed doors. I think the Supreme Court heard, because if you look at the second portion of Hunter, it's not just miscarriage of justice, but it's that would, throw shame on the judicial system as a whole in the eyes of the public. So well done to everybody who's done their share to keep this story alive.
You know, the other thing I think, Kathy, too, is that he never entered a plea. The plea was entered for him by the judge. He
Right.
never got his very first hearing because it was the grand jury.
Oh
And
gosh.
not only that, the system took over. The system took over and spoke for him, and now he wants to enter a not guilty plea.
That's what he's done. That's really what he's
Yes,
done, right? I mean, you raise this case is so long, you forget. He was supposed to have she waived his
preliminary
rights.
trial, right.
She waived his rights to a speedy preliminary hearing. Otherwise, that preliminary hearing would have been much sooner than the end of June, which was what both sides agreed to in early January. So we said, okay, great. Now already they started with the gag order that was put in place. Oh, by the way, drafted by Ann C. Taylor, not the
Mhm.
state. She went to the state. Gag order, secretive hearings were already happening. We think, okay, great, we're going to have a preliminary hearing. She goes and waives his speedy right to a preliminary hearing. They agree to the end of June. That gives him enough time to go to the secret grand jury. So what we don't get is we don't get a public and open preliminary hearing where they would have had to bring in their evidence in June of 2023. The indictment, which there's an old saying, it, Phoenix, right? A prosecutor could get a ham sandwich, to be
Yeah,
indicted,
to be
right?
indicted.
Because you've got no defense counsel there. The witnesses can't have counsel there. It's just the prosecutor. Okay, so that's done. Then we thought there was going to be a trial in October. She waives speedy trial. So now, then he files the motion for change of venue, and he got Hippler. All right. And Hippler was appointed by the Supreme Court of Idaho, and Hippler cannot be removed without cause. At least Idaho versus Kohberger. Kohberger versus Idaho may be another story. Because
Right.
maybe there's some misconduct on the part of Judge Stephen J. Hippler, possibly. Again, my opinion only. My opinion only. After he saw the condition of that waiver of appellate rights, saw he was recently diagnosed. There was no assurances there from a mental health practitioner. You break your
Mhm.
leg, you get an opinion from an orthopedic surgeon. We have mental health issues, and it's like there's still a stigma approach to it. No.
Right.
So maybe, I don't want to raise anyone's hopes, but I'm going to throw this out there. Maybe Hitler will step down and have somebody else take a look at this, or maybe not. We don't.
Doesn't he have to sign off on it if he's going to retire? Somebody else has to be pass the ball, per se.
He can go ahead. Any judge can go ahead and it's you move to disqualify a judge. A judge can automatically move to recuse themselves. So Hippler could at any time enter an order of recusal, say, I'm just too close to this. This is too big. Another judge should look over this. I'm not expecting that, but that's always a possibility, Phoenix.
Right. And remember, just because he enters this, I want to withdraw my plea and I want a PCR and I want somebody to take a look at this. And I do want to have a trial, even if it means putting the death penalty back on the table. That is pretty big of him to go ahead and file this with these allegations that they've lied to him. He was coerced, maybe even threatened, possibly beat up. All these speculative things that could have happened. And he's now saying, no, my actual innocence is my truth. That doesn't mean that he's going to win. That's not filing a petition is not the same thing as winning. There is a whole process that's behind this. So saying a plea was broken doesn't prove it was broken. Now they have to go back and look at all the evidence. The court still has to decide if they're going to allow him to even go to a trial, right?
That's right. And just to jump on what you said, massive baseballs to
Mhm.
file this today, I think, because number one, the possibility the DP, DP could be put on the table if he gets a new trial. Number one. Number two, he has involved his entire family. He says here that his entire family are going to be his witnesses, basically, if you read between the lines, because they
Correct.
participated in all hearings. So now all of that, oh, he did this to protect his family, he's not looking. So, but if you look at this case, I want to ask you one question. How important are timelines? How
Oh,
important.
so important. If he would have filed this after this new documentary coming out, it probably would have been very difficult based on we don't know what they're going to say in this new document. We don't know what type of massive media is going to be pushed out there. Filing this now was a strategic move. Kohberger, in
Mhm.
my humble opinion, plays chess because
Oh,
he
yeah.
he
Yeah.
has just put his entire council team, not only Ann Taylor, not Bill Thompson, not just Jennings, he has put the former Attorney General of Idaho's feet to the fire, guys.
That's a great point. I mean, for someone to do this, you got to say to yourself, if he knows even if, let's just say he's an accessory before the fact, and that explains why there's nothing in his car and his house, all the things that we've questioned for so long. And how could he have done this in 6 minutes when we finally got to see the autopsy report? And that spoke volumes. How does he run up and down, 100 blows here, 100, and not drop DNA and not take it with them? You accessory before the fact, accessory after the fact, co-conspirator, you're still going down. If they can
Correct.
prove any of, you're still going down. But he's put all of that on the line in a case where, regarding timelines of the crimes, Phoenix, we still don't know when Ethan and Xana arrived home. A
Correct.
basic fact like that. Why the secrecy? Why the mystery of where they were? With Kaylee and Madison, we knew where they were. We knew that they went to the corner. They got picked up, went to the corner club, stayed there for a while, walked over to the grub truck, then came home. Were taken home by this private driver. Xana and Ethan have been a complete mystery from the beginning. And what we have in the documents, the court records, which means everything. If you look at document number 1, the affidavit of probable cause, I believe it's on page 6, Detective Brett Payne says that Xana and Ethan arrived home at approximately 1:45 a.m. Judge Stephen J. Hippler, in a court order, April 23rd, 2025, page 2. It is an order on a motion in limine, stated that Xana and Ethan were not home at 2 a.m. Here
Correct.
we are nearly 4 years later. Why is that a secret? Some say they're hiding it. Could it be that that there were two, all these things that people have been saying, they've been called conspiracy theories. Is there something to it? Is that why we still don't know as the public? When did Xana and Ethan enter 1122 King Road for the last time? Why do we have two important people in the case, the trial court and the lead detective, saying two different things?
Yeah, you've got a great point right there. I mean, even in our, lives and our live digs and fireballs and all that other hoopla, we still don't have appropriate answers to a lot of things, not just one thing, right? I mean, the big thing with Xana and Ethan, absolutely. Here is the document that Kathy's talking about. We've talked about this document before also. But something of great concern is, was his vehicle there? Did he ping anywhere near there? If this all occurred earlier in the night, there is no possible way he could have been in the area. They have him with receipts and video shopping in the middle of the night for other things.
Phoenix, can I ask you another rhetorical question?
Sure.
Okay. Given what we finally, and everything that's unsealed is like, okay, I have three more pieces of the puzzle, and I think maybe you feel this way too. I got three more pieces of the puzzle that I can add to try to figure out what the heck happened. But then I got to take away another six because something here is contradicting something over there. But
Right.
we were led to believe the official story is one person and one person alone. His name is Brian C. Kohberger of Monroe County, Pennsylvania. Drove his car across state lines. They were able to tell you apparently every step of the way where he was going and coming, with the exception of when Detective Brett Payne, based on his 2 years of experience, said that criminals usually turn off their cell phones when they're going to commit a crime. But they can track every step of the way with that exception. They can't do that for Xana and Ethan for reasons unknown.
Correct.
But I digress. He probably spent, if you look at the timeline, and you look at what the PCA says, and you look at what the coroner's report says maybe 5 minutes in that house, maybe 6 minutes in that house, and then he takes off after hundreds of blows to fighting off Xana. And where's Ethan? Ethan's laying in bed while this ferocious fight's happening, and he's not going. He just turns over and he continues to fall, to sleep, or he's attacking the big guy in bed first, and Xana doesn't jump on his back or call 911.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
where I think and then where's the footsteps? Where's the footsteps, Phoenix, throughout the house,
Agree.
right?
It doesn't make sense. I mean, I've got a master timeline that I made about 3 or 4 months ago as I every single day uncovering things, adding it to this massive timeline that I have. But you know what? I think at the beginning of last week, there was this interview that was released that actually, I think, in my humble opinion, this is the only person that has skewed everything what Dylan said about what happened that night.
Right.
I really believe so because she said she wasn't feeling like getting drunk. Dylan wasn't drunk. So then throw out Dylan's whole statements, what we've been saying that it doesn't make sense. And then she said, because Dylan said she saw the guy in the ski mask kill Ethan.
Yeah, that was interesting. I
It's
have to interject. I think that she was used to some extent, and like she was shown Kohberger's picture on the day of his arrest. I
yeah,
think she would have been the queen of Idaho and could have, if she would have, she said, I can't identify him. I can't
right.
identify. If she would have identified him, just imagine. But remember the video that they showed, Phoenix, of him? Where was it? At the Walmart or where he was walking around? Did
Costco. Hmm.
Costco. Did you happen to see any bruising, anything red on his hand? Did you see him maybe walking over? This would have been the next morning after daylight, 10 hours later. A 26-year-old skinny guy like this who wasn't a boxer, wasn't an MMA fighter. The next morning, you usually, if you have a ferocious battle like that, one of my followers has said, I did boxing. The next day, you can't walk. He's walking around
No.
like it's nothing the next day. Wouldn't he have been all hunched out? And then he goes to the doctor a couple of days later. The doctor didn't see any type of bruising or marks. He didn't drop any DNA. There is something terribly wrong about this story. And I don't know why that
Yeah.
entire case
Yeah.
wasn't sealed so we could figure out what it is.
Absolutely. I mean, if he would have had any scratch or bruising or somebody in his class, somebody, the professor, somebody would have been able to say, yeah, he had scratching and bruising. He was limping, or, he maybe had a month later, maybe he had an injury below his clothing that you can't see and maybe didn't get treated and sepsis and all these other speculative things. But if he was walking around and taking pictures like no other big deal, something is not right with the story. I agree.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you for posting this because it's a reminder. You look how close up his hands are.
Yeah.
Would there have been a mark, a bruise, a cut, something? But watch him walking. They get him from outside in the parking lot, walking into this store, and then they catch him walking out. He's walking like he's perfectly normal. You would have thought that he'd be hunched over, he'd be in pain, his back might have gotten hurt or something. Absolutely nothing. It's like
Nothing.
everything about this case
Yeah.
doesn't make sense. It's on top of a conundrum. There's much more to it. So I'm hopeful that in this petition for post-conviction relief, that the public will be treated with the due respect that they are entitled to, having paid for this case. That's another thing.
Oh, $8 million.
Oh, $8 million and at state case, but how many federal agents were involved? You think they're flying to Idaho and living there, meals, transportation, use of whatever technology for free? That's coming out of your and mine and everybody who's listening in chats. Income tax for 2022, 3, 4, and 5. And then they're not going to show us what we got for our money.
Yeah. I
You
mean,
know?
That's a lot of money to say, and all these experts. Don't you think one of these experts would have called out another and said, "Hey, that's not what happened." They knew in February of 2025 when all this came back from the FBI, when all the forensics came in, that it was not pointing to him other than the DNA on the snap. They never denied it was his on the DNA snap.
And
Not once.
that's another thing. I mean, they spent so much time. They spent so much time and energy and work trying to fight IgG DNA, policies and procedures. Hitler, some of his rulings, he wasn't wrong. When
Right.
when they were in all the motions to suppress evidence, you got to show a Fourth Amendment violation, and a violation of a DOJ policy and procedure is not one. Hitler told that to Taylor. What'd she do? She goes back and she fights DOJ policy and procedure again. I mean, she
Right.
frustrated the heck out of him. It's not all him. And that's alibi defense deserved to be thrown out. It was a stupid move. I don't get it. Again, my humble opinion only. What do you think, Phoenix?
I mean, I don't know. I really don't know at this point because I think, she's part of the club, in my opinion, humbly.
I,
Right?
I
And when
mean,
I don't mean it in a bad way, but these are her colleagues. These are people that are looking at her to do what they want them to do, right? What the law allows.
what I don't
And
what I don't understand, Phoenix, if I could just get your thoughts on this, is how important was IgG DNA in the defense of this case, going back to the first request for production, of documents. They wanted IgG and had all the hearings. They had the hearing before Judge. It was behind closed doors, then looking at in camera, and then coming, and then they weren't satisfied with. I mean, they fought hard on that, and then you get to eliminate time, and you say, "Oh, our bad. We're not going to be using IgG DNA," which then led to the Judge Hitler infamous, as I call it, homework assignment between the two of them to come up with some story to tell the jury as to why that man was sitting in front of them at the defense table. All the while, they spent all that time fighting IgG DNA and not one move to try to get that sheath thrown out. I did a 3 Days in Moscow series a while back where I traced the sheath from 1122, whether it's on her right side, her left side, on the ground, that's in dispute. It's who you believe where it was. Why didn't they take that sheath immediately to Meridian to be tested? Oh, no, no, no.
correct.
They're going to turn it over. They think it's a better move to turn it over to Detective Brett Payne right after midnight in front of the house on the 14th. And it proceeds to stay in Moscow for 3 days until the team of Walliford and Turrentine transport it to Meridian. It comes in, I've called it, packed like it was a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. No evidence tape on it. There's a question regarding chain of custody, how it was signed up. You're not going to challenge the sheath? The sheath gets thrown out. That's the case. That's it.
Yeah,
Where are they gonna go?
absolutely.
Home
And
page?
they never were going to deny that it wasn't his DNA on there. Like I said, did he sell it? Did somebody break into his apartment and steal it? Did somebody borrow it and not return it? I mean, what was the deal behind his, touch DNA, if you want to, because they weren't going to spend all that time educating the jury what's touch or transfer.
Oh,
They were
please.
not going to do that.
They would have lost that jury, be standing there, sleeping if they went through all of that.
Mhm.
And all you got to do is maybe make an effort to get that sheath thrown out. What did
Right.
Judge Hitler say? Your client's DNA at the crime scene is probable cause every day of the week and twice on Sunday. He's not talking about anything else but that sheath. And you
Sheath.
got all these questions. They do it every day of the week and twice on Sunday, defendants. Challenging chain of custody, and they didn't. And then here's another thing. One thing I did agree with Ray, and I'm on record a year and a half ago with these suppression motions that he did have a Fourth Amendment right, because it wasn't just his three cousins or the three brothers or the distant relatives. If that was, if they went into databases and they found based on, well, guess what? They're potentially looking at my DNA as well as, and that's where the Fourth Amendment violation possibly came in. Not that it was policies and procedures, but she didn't even argue that.
It was unethical. And then where they got the information from the Izzy database, which is totally violates the DOJ policy. Like that's why I said this is unethical. It's not illegal, but it's unethical. But what about the other DNA that was on the knife sheet? There was a male and then up to 2 other people. Was that female? I've been talking about that for almost a year. Well,
Yes,
who were the
you
other 2?
Yes, you have. And who knows if Kohberger was even told about that? You know, I mean,
Probably not.
it's going to be what this is going to come down to, I think, Phoenix, is what did he know and when did he know it?
Know it. Yes.
Okay. Well, she's going to have to come up with all kinds of receipts as to when things are discussed with him. Did she go? I think a few people have said, yes, there was a tour of the IDOC D row. I don't know. I can't say it. Okay. Unaliving row. But if it comes out that that happened, okay, that's true. Then he's got to show. Everybody's been saying, "Oh, he's got all the discovery." I was like, "Well, how do we know that he's got all the discovery?" What I'm hearing from Dr. Brent Turvey, who was very much respected by Judge Stephen J. Hippler, would have no way he would, I think, would have not gotten before that jury. Cy Ray, conspiracy theorist, according to Judge Hippler, another story.
That's weird. He would call him that.
Oh my God. Hippler. Did you ever see Hippler lose his cool ever in this
Yeah.
case? That's why, he did. He was, you know why? And I think he had a right, because you got, again, that's where I said it's the arrogance. You're not the trier of the law. You can't say what's exculpatory or not. You get to say hair was in this boy's hand and it wasn't tested. It's up to Hippler. Hippler, with his arrogance, he doesn't want somebody else to take his place. I think he really got under Hippler's skin, and Hippler might have said, "Nah, you're a conspiracy." And then what? Then you're left
Right.
with no.
So now they're going to be forced, if they accept this, and they're going to have to be forced to prove they didn't take the hair and test it, right? Or did they, and they withheld whose hair it was?
Well, we're
And
going to have
I think we're going to probably find out, unless most of this is sealed, taken behind closed doors, never released to the public, and then bam, he'll be exonerated, right? I mean,
right.
just cover up after cover up after cover up, not informing the public.
Did your grandmother or your mother ever tell you, don't tell a lie, because a lie requires another lie and then another lie and then another lie. You just tell the truth and you got nothing to worry about. And what did he say when he was in Pennsylvania? I want to be exonerated.
I will be exonerated.
And I always said, what was the rush in getting him back? Why didn't they try to get the DP off the table then? You've got people all the time who, if they're held in other countries or states that don't believe in the DP, they will not return them. And the governor of Pennsylvania was very much against DP, put a moratorium on it. I don't see him sending BK back unless giving them but no, it was like, oh no, we got to rush back to Idaho, where he knows nobody, which is a state that has instituting the firing squad for you,
just for you.
Yeah, Phoenix, I don't.
And as a man with autism, do you know what? And I have a son with autism. Do you know what he's probably thinking about night and day?
What?
They did me wrong. They lied to me. They lied to me. They told me this. It's not happening. They lied to me. They promised me X, Y, and Z. And it is probably eating him alive. For him to write that on a piece of paper, Kathy, it's like being released from that burden.
Exactly. Because several members of my family have autism, and people think, oh, they're weird, they're standing right behind you. And no, they have to go to school to learn social skills so that they can exist in your world where they don't have the social cues. And when I saw the WSU lawsuit where it said that people with autism have a higher propensity to stalk, I almost hit the roof. I said, as if they don't have enough prejudice, they need this too. Where is this proof? Where's this backup?
Well, the proof is that the people with autism, they have a higher propensity to be manipulated. And they took advantage, in my humble opinion. The whole team took advantage of that. Why would they lie to him in his own words and say he needed to take this plea deal? Why would they lie? Or what did they promise him? That's what I want to know. What did
Oh,
they
yeah.
promise him to get him here? Now, the G's have responded as of this afternoon. Kevin Fixler was able to get an interview on the phone with the G family. And they're
Sure he did.
basically saying now they're not scared to go to trial. And now they're calling Kohberger a narcissist. What do
Yeah.
you think about that?
Oh my goodness, I haven't seen this before. A narcissist. I don't understand. I will go back to the beginning of the case. I don't understand when and how Mr. G turned, because at the beginning of the case,
Mm-hmm.
very much against having this case under seal. He did not want that guy. They are the first in the case to have tried to get that gag order set aside. They said public trial needs to be public. And he said he was holding out until he sees the evidence. Well, they didn't show him the evidence. At what point did he turn to, I got to see the evidence, to this guy is 100% guilty? What happened? And then we have Gabriela Vargas, who's on the stand, and she gets knock on the door. Did that happen? We don't know, because this case is sealed from the public.
Right.
And it goes back. Here we go again, Phoenix, with the circular argument. Why is it sealed to the public? There's got to be a reason why it's sealed to the public. It makes no sense.
Yeah. And remember, Steve said when he accepted the plea, he said in an interview, and I think I still have that in my repository, he basically said, Thompson wanted to blame this on a vet.
Oh,
what did all that have to do with it? Where is, and that, what is her name? I just had her name on the tip of my tongue. Oh gosh, the genealogy expert, that whoever investigated the genealogy went down the wrong tree and it would have led them to a different tree.
Right. She said, I know who you're talking about. She said it is impossible for them to have gotten these results in 10 days, which is what they got. It takes much longer. It was like everything was a rush. Even the other day, and it's so important, I recommend everyone in your audience to look at the early days of the case. I caught something I had never heard before. It was Detective Brett Payne speaking to Lanier. I think the bodies were still outside of the house. Oh boy, this is going to be a problem for the university. They had just had a great semester. You got 4 people that were butchered, and you're worried about enrollment at the university. Why? Because it affects your pocketbook for your overtime to go into run security there. I said to myself, and then I couldn't understand. You got Snyder, the canine cop, supposedly just came from Main Street, where there was a rug call for him and the canine, brand new canine.
Right.
Got, and he doesn't have his dog with him. He doesn't have his, an officer told me that's like another cop turning up to a crime scene without his firearm.
Yeah.
He doesn't have his body cam on him. And then he proceeds to go up into Xana's room and he sees crushed substance. He doesn't know what that was. That could have been F. That's what
it
that
could have been.
He doesn't bring the dog in. He doesn't bring the dog in to go through that house. And then he has another secret. He has a conversation where it's turned down. I think it was Birdie who alerted us to the fact that he's saying something about one of the victims is a CI. That's Ryan Snyder. If one of the victims was a CI, a rug, because they got into a little bit of trouble, and we're complete speculation, we're told, okay, now you don't want to ruin your future. All you got to do is you got to tell on, your friends and put them in. Is that maybe what happened? Why didn't they bring the rug dog? What were they afraid of he might find? Because that dog would have gone and jumped up and down if he smelled anything, if he picked up. Okay.
Yeah, and why? And he was like all over that neighborhood looking, scouring, and doing everything that he possibly could to find out what happened. I mean, he went right over to JD's house, all around the backyard, did his job, went knocking on all the doors, and where is his dog?
Have you ever seen K9? And this is another point that I'm reminded that he is a beautiful, he was, I think, just over a year old. He was like a blonde Labrador. This dog is gorgeous. And they are always published. Hey, if you see Snyder and K9 Ragnar out on the street, say hi. People were traumatized around that. Imagine he walks up with a golden Labrador. That might induce people to speak up if the objective is to get people to speak up.
Now, Ragnar is a beautiful dog. We even benchmark to see if that was the canine that was barking in the middle of the night on the audio cam. But I'll tell you, Kathy, What? Just think about this for a second logically. If they brought a dog, a drug dog into that area, what kind of body cam would you be watching?
I'll tell you what you'd be watching because I've seen it. I've seen Snyder with Ragnar. You'd see that dog jump up and down wanting a cookie.
That's right.
You know?
Everywhere. Everywhere in that area. Just think for 1 second.
Yeah, it was like no dogs allowed at 11:20. It was like a dog-free zone. They're taking out Murphy. You know, they call 12:22 is when ISP was confirmed that they would be coming in to help to process the crime scene because MPD could not do it. And so, what do you got? Gunderson going up and making the call, touching everything with no gloves on, no protective gear. Talk about possibly contaminating the crime scene. Goes in, decides they're going to take the. I asked a couple of law, and they said, "Yeah, we would bag their hand. We'd ask, do we take the dog out? We're going to take him somewhere, but you protect him because he needs to be processed to see if he had any DNA on him." Oh no, 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 that didn't happen. They take him out right away. They don't check with ISP. They bring him to some pound, and who shows up without a body cam on? Nathaniel Rosendahl.
Rosendahl.
Where is his? Can I ask you, Phoenix? Where is his report from when he did work off duty as an undercover the night before? We don't have it.
There's no report. I've been saying that forever. That's the only report I ever wanted to see other than Tesdall's, because that kind of gives you an idea. They were undercover. They were working. What did they see? What did they know? And guess what? Nathaniel just disappears like a ghost.
There's no report from him. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
The Tisdale report says, he puts himself right on Queen Road. He says, we're driving around. Where's the undercover car on the 1112 camera? You know,
I think that's suspect vehicle 1.
Please, when the PCA came out and I learned about it, I said, is this guy talking about the undercover car, the suspect vehicle?
I think so, because when they were interviewing Molly was dead set on the car she saw. She told them, and the FBI lady stopped the interview. They gave her a cognitive type of test, and then they said, okay, that's it with her, because she just confirmed their undercover car.
Yeah, either that or Kohberger's driving an undercover car and he's got a blonde and red wig on. You know, possibly in his. But the thing.
But if you think about it, Kathy, you think about if he was walking around on body cam and he had the dog with him, could you imagine the response the dog would give at almost every house?
Every room.
Every house in that little cul-de-sac.
Yeah, every house, right?
Yeah, and 500 Queen Road, take the dog over there. I'm sure they're going to hit a million times, because you know, and I know that in Idaho, marijuana is illegal. And what did we see in Kaylee's drawer? If that was Kaylee's room, in fact, marijuana.
Right. So you got the canine rug officer. Okay. And that canine is deputized. So he's got more credentials than anybody working on that MPD force. He was a sworn deputy for Latah County, and he was an MPD. He is a cop. If you try to hit the canine, you're brought up on charges for, a violence on a law enforcement official. They're not pets. So you got Snyder. He's going around and he's going into Xana's room and he's taking a photograph of some substance unknown in a plastic bag with a rolled up dollar bill. And you don't think to yourself, wait a second, is this rug related somehow? Not throwing any shade on any of the victims at all. But I think that there would have been enough there for him to say, for whatever reason, he dumped the dog on Main Street where he was. We got to get Ragnar over here. We went to the Moscow City Council in 2021 fall and said we need a canine to help with Moscow's growing rub problem. Right. And so Moscow put out a lot of money to buy that dog, train that, and train the cop as well. So he sees that, and what, Phoenix, he automatically, this is nothing to be concerned about. If it were somebody else, if it would have been Smith who was taking the photographs, but it's the canine cop, and he's a canine rug cop. Just walks away like it's nothing. Like you say, can you imagine if that dog would have walked around that neighborhood? Could you imagine?
They would have had maybe 100 cookies to give him.
Oh, they'd have to call the cookie store. We got to get back order some more cookies here.
Let me ask you this, Kathy. So in Idaho, there's a rule, it's the criminal rule 33C, and it says after sentence, a court may set aside a judgment and permit withdrawal of a guilty plea to correct a manifest injustice. And I
Mhm.
think those two words carry the weight of this entire case and this entire challenge that Brian Kohberger is up against. So, manifest means clear, evident, and plainly shown. Injustice obviously means more than regret, disappointment, or bad bargain in hindsight. So, do you think he took a bad bargain and is saying, nope, no more? I'm not living another day, another year, another 2 years, not the entire life like this when you guys promised me X, Y, and Z.
Imagine. I think you hit on a really important point, and I hope that the audience remembers this, that he was autistic. But Phoenix, he was not diagnosed as autistic until he was in the late talk. Like it was
Mm-hmm.
February or March. We're talking about he's going into a plea deal within 3 months. I think you're right. I think that he expected that whatever he was promised, we have to find out what it was.
Mm-hmm.
He expected that they would come through, and then he's sitting in jail, in prison, not jail, prison, um, where they're taking taking his video, and it's online and going it's supposed to be a maximum
Right.
security prison. Are you kidding me? I'm sure he was embarrassed about that, and I'm sure that that's a civil rights violation. And we haven't heard word one from IDOC as to what whatever happened regarding that or of the leak with Hitler. Okay, it's like everything just went into the circular. So maybe he's sitting there a year and thinking to himself, yeah, this is manifest injustice. But I think he is a scholar too. I think that he read and he knows what Garza versus
Mm-hmm.
Garza versus Idaho stands for, and he knows what Hunter versus US stands for.
Mm-hmm.
And while he may have a lot of people against him right now, the attorney general and everybody else, he's got 8 justices on the Supreme Court of the United States, I think, that was on his side. And the 3 of them who went in and said these plea deals, they got to go. They got to go. And we may be seeing Kohberger versus Idaho
Mm-hmm.
in the federal court system. He's got to exhaust his, and it's
Means,
true.
yeah.
It's like, you know it. I mean, you got to exhaust your initial steps, and that's in state court. And that's why we were predicting, and that's why when you said, "I'm so happy that you did it," because I was getting bombarded with people. They were so, oh my gosh, they're invested in this case. They thought about a month and a half ago that there was a full blown appeal that had been filed,
Yeah.
and we
Yeah.
had done so much work. I know you did too, to try. No, 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 and a lot of people were extremely disappointed, not
Right.
just from Kohberger because they bought into this case, but also concerned about their own due process rights. If somebody gets into trouble, is this going to be a precedent for future as to how cases are going to
Are
be?
going. Mm-hmm.
So
That's
he's got to exhaust his what he needs to do in state court,
Well,
right?
he needs more than I regret it on paper. He needs more than prison is terrible. And he definitely will need more than the public has questions. He needs to have facts to back up what he put in writing. Obviously, hopefully, we'll see an amendment of amended filing with some citations. And he's going to need all those facts in the decision making process saying that this was corrupt in every legal meaningful way. All my counsel was on board with that because how could they live with knowing he was going to take a guilty plea?
Well, especially Phoenix after Ann C. Taylor and Eliza Massoff stood up in open court in Latah County and said, my client's factually innocent, and fought like the Dickens for 2.5 years. And then all of a sudden, what? To have him plea and to have it done in secret in this highly secretive case where we don't even know what the timeline was with respect to Ethan and Xana. So he's got people need to understand this isn't going to happen overnight. It's probably you're going to see a ferocious fight from Idaho. You're going to see all of the the attacks in mainstream media that you saw before, but 100 times worse now because he pled guilty.
Mm-hmm.
But he got to sit tight. He's got to let Hitler do his thing, And if Hitler denies, he still has avenues. Then he appeals to the Supreme Court of Idaho or an appellate court. And then if he doesn't like what he got there, he goes over to the U.S. Then he gets into the federal system, habeas corpus.
I always think of it this way, right? The plea agreement is kind of like a locked door. The appeal waiver is another lock. And
Right.
then the sworn statement is a third lock. And then obviously there's no spare key just sitting under all these mats. It's like emergency power allowing the court to open the door if leaving the locked door would just be unjust. So basically, Kohberger is asking Stephen Hitler, Judge Hitler, that he's asking the court to use that emergency power to unlock all this. And we need to go back and I need to speak my piece, right? This is my truth.
And you know what? Sometimes, like going back to what you said, in terms of timing is everything. What timing for Hunter versus U.S. to come out? June 18th, his door was closing to file post and to get this ball rolling around September 3rd, 42 days from the date that the sentence happened. So we take, July 23rd, we add 42 days and we come up with the beginning of September. If Hunter had not been decided the way he had, okay, he still falls back on Garza, which is not bad because that's ineffective assistance of counsel, another Supreme Court case. But to have Hunter behind it, and where now the courts are saying, hey, courts, you have a responsibility to the public. And thinking that 3 very young justices who sit on the Supreme Court wrote that concurring opinion and talked about their concerns that we are becoming a nation of plea deals and not a nation of jury trials, which is what our Constitution requires. I think timing, it may be, I don't know, a gift from above. I know that Caleb has been talking about this for a very long time in chat and elsewhere, but I think his case got stronger because of Hunter versus United States.
I think timing was everything. But I mean, in his own words, false promises and blatant disinformation, those are strong allegations. Those are strong words. Nobody would just put that on paper if they didn't have anything to back it up, right?
Well,
Because even if he was promised housing, safety, access to programs, contact with family, the legal library that most prisons do have available on their tablets, and then obviously future litigation or what the state would do. Once you get into the correction system, there's nothing that the defense attorneys, they can't guarantee things like that.
Right. So he said, I'm glad you pointed that out, because I have not seen I've never seen, and I've looked at, not just in Idaho, other states, defense counsel, they failed to file a motion to appeal. That's what Garza is all
saying.
about.
Well, isn't that what Kohberger's saying too? That my team would not file. I have to file for myself.
No, he's saying that he was lied to.
Yeah, he filed on his own too. Doesn't a PCR normally come from your team?
Not always. Because, well, in this case, I mean, he still had, and I kept saying, how's he going to argue PCR if he's still allowing defense counsel to represent him in 2 ways? One, in fighting to have those bills. Hello, why doesn't she want the bills to be public? And 2, with Hitler in this, it came to a standstill about basically the unsealing process. But think about, I want to bring you back to last November. It just popped in my head.
Okay.
Remember I think the first and only hearing that Hitler held post conviction was that hearing where the plaintiffs were looking, or the family members were looking for more money out of Kohberger.
Oh yeah.
I said to myself, I told my followers and my members, be sure, okay, this is going to be video. This will be probably the first time you're going to see Mr. Kohberger in prison. And he might not be on camera, because there was a couple of times that he appeared. It was so stupid. It was Judge in the Latah County Courthouse on the 2nd floor. Down the hall is Thompson. You got Kohberger in the basement with Ann Taylor. and they do it over Zoom. All right. But Kohberger wasn't on camera. I said, you're going to probably see him. He's never missed a hearing.
Missed a
He's
hearing.
never,
Yep.
even up to when that hearing on whether to set aside the gag order when the media came in, he was on camera then. He did not appear. That was the first time he ever. So maybe this has been brewing for a while. Who knows what's been going on behind the scenes, regarding this. So that might address the fact why.
It might be, like I said, he's sitting there every single day. It's rumination. He's sitting there every single day, living this in his head over and over again. And he might have just said, where did they go wrong? I trusted my team.
I did. And here I am sitting in prison. And you know what it comes down to? Lie. You and I might think, oh, well, what was the promise? I'd be getting vegan meals twice a day. Remember, everything the media talked about, oh, he's not getting fresh bananas. Or
and good bananas, right?
Stupid stuff. Not one of them reported on Hunter. Not one. Any of them. Like
he might be even angry to some point, right? The stages of grief that he's probably gone through. He trusted his team in the first 2 months. They thought maybe they were going to fix it right away. And this is a long process. That's why I ask, how long do you think this process is going to be? Will he be able to hold out and for this process to that dysregulation over and over of dealing with the anger and frustration and nothing happening? Now I have to file it myself pro se.
Well, yeah, true. But, getting back to I have not seen a case, and maybe it's out there, where a defendant said that counsel outright lied.
Right.
You know what? The standard in this country is that he runs his case. He's the boss of the case. You do as he says. They give advice, and if there's a conflict, then they need to, withdraw. But it's what so if they're promised, maybe it comes down to something like they promised him, oh, you're going to get vegan meals, and he's not getting vegan meals. All right. If I could have gotten vegan meals and access to the law library and contact with my parents, then I signed the plea agreement, and that's part of the reason why. But if I knew that I wasn't going to get those things, I would have gone to trial.
Right.
That's what it could come down to.
No,
that's it.
It was like hook and line. What do they call those? Bait and switch, right?
Switch with autistic. It was somebody. It's not like he had been diagnosed at age 8 or 9. He had gotten interventions and had learned to live with it for 2 decades. The guy was just diagnosed a couple of months earlier.
But remember,
he's just learning.
But he's had a thyroid disease longer than he's had been diagnosed with autism, right?
Right.
He had a thyroid disease, and thyroid disease is very, very closely linked with anxiety. Anxiety can be a part of rumination in autism. But he's had this thyroid disease longer than he was diagnosed with autism. There can be a link in this anxiety. It's just rumination. He's thinking about it all the time. It causes him more stress, more thyroid issues. It could cause anger. That part of the rumination and the stress that it's bringing is causing him more issues. So
yeah, he looks angry, and whoever did this rendition did a really good one. Because he's not looking too pleased there.
Yeah, I did that one.
Very well done. It looks very lifelike too, Phoenix. That's pretty good.
I kind of put some certain parameters in there to make it look a little lifelike, like Gyllenhaal, but no, I'm just joking.
Hey, I've done some. You know what it looks like? It looks like a stick figure. I can't figure it out. So it's pretty good here. But going back to what you said, who knows how the thyroid medication might have impacted with the autism. Who knows? He disclosed on that form that he scribbled that waiver of constitutional rights form. When I saw it, I said, hey, wait a second, what's this? He's scribbling. At one point he scratched it out so hard that if you had the actual form, you'd probably be able to feel on the other side how hard he scratched it out. So Hippler, why don't you ask him a few questions to satisfy in your mind that this was willing, that it was voluntary, that he was not confused, that he was not, told that he was coerced, because that's going to come out. I want everybody to be prepared, because Hippler did ask those questions. But then I'm like, well, if you're suffering from something and you don't know how are you supposed to know to be able to say that you don't know? You know,
Right.
that's why he needs good counsel. Hopefully, whoever is appointed will be good counsel. We'll file this amended document, and then it'll be game on at that time. But yeah, people have got to recognize you're going to be seeing a lot of stuff in mainstream media, you know, and we don't know what the facts are yet. Hopefully, we'll learn the facts as this goes on, and we can put this to rest at some point. Phoenix,
Absolutely.
I never thought, you know, when I started my podcast years ago, it was like I had another, you know, did music and stuff like this, and I wanted to do true crime because I've been a true crime interest, you know, for decades. And the Kohberger case was new. I'd been told about it by my husband, and I said, okay, well, maybe this is a good candidate, but I wanted to do 3. But once I did the affidavit of probable cause and I saw what was happening at the beginning, I said, all right, I'm either going to do Kohberger or 3 others. I got to dedicate exclusively to this case because it requires it. And then I thought, well, okay, trial's coming up in October, and then he's either going to be found guilty or not guilty, and that'll be it. And then, waive speedy. All right, so trial's next year. And then he changed of venue. So trial's 2025. And then right up before trial, you get hit with this change of plea that I don't know where I was doing a live, and I was like, whispers that, who was it? That had said that that Kohberger had pled guilty. I said, what case are they talking about? Idaho. What case are they talking about? I could not even. I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw him say the words in court. And then I saw.
Well, I was shocked too, even when Anne said, and Anne wrote it on paper that it was very difficult to work with Kohberger, and I kept saying if it was so difficult because the communication with him. And even she wrote it in her, I think in a statement somewhere in a filing that it was very difficult to work with her client because they weren't on the same page. So that means he must have been, problematic. He must have been pushing back. And she was like, no, we can't do that or something to that effect. But she did write it in a filing. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me.
How about all the times that she wrote, if I don't get discovery, it's ineffective assistance of counsel. She almost wrote this. And then I think he's got a very good point. How do you say for more than 2.5 years you don't have discovery? And now the most important decision of the entire case, you tell the judge point blank that you did. I don't know how that's possible. Can you think?
No, it caught me off guard. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Absolutely. What is he giving up? And then all the information started coming out, and it was like, I made the same commitment. I would only be reporting on this case, and we are going deep, and we are not going to go and give it up unless we come to a resolution. Just like in the Gypsy Rose Blanchard case, by the time that I got the sheriff's reports, I read through them and I was like, oh my gosh, how did the blood get on the cabinets at almost 7 feet tall on the ceilings? And then I found out that the co-conspirator in that case wasn't even in town yet. And he's still in prison, another autistic man in prison. I'm thinking, holy moly, now we know what happened in that case. Oh my goodness. It's wild.
It's like, but you know, this case beats all. It just in so many different ways. In a lot of ways, like I've said, I've been reporting on it for over 3.5 years. And in a lot of ways, I think I know more. I know less today than when I first started because of all the contradictories. It was like, and then I started to do who got the timeline right. Is it Detective Brett Payne or is it Captain Roger Lanier regarding what time the girls left? Because they're given 2 different times. Lanier says 1:37. Payne and the PCA says they were at the corner. They left the corner club at 1:30, but then he says they were simultaneously at the grub truck at 1:30. Can you imagine putting that in a signed statement?
Yeah,
you know, because you want a warrant. And then you got who got the timeline right? Was it Officer Smith or was it Detective Payne? Payne makes up the story on page 1 that Smith is the one who took him through for a walkthrough at 4. You got Smith who's signing out at 4:03 and writing his report. He doesn't mention word 1 about, you know, Payne. So Payne. It was like, and then
but Payne now works at the U of I. He is like an executive program manager in their medical program.
Wow. What credentials does he have? He's probably Kohberger's probably thinking, This guy is working at a university where who knows, would he have had his PhD by now? If it was,
Yeah, he would have been done.
he would have been done. He
Yeah,
would
and
have
his
been done.
goal was to become a professor or, something of that nature. So he would have been done.
Right. And then they won't release the interview that Payne did,
Yes.
you know?
Gilbertson and Payne. They will
What
not release that interview.
Think about it. Look at other cases. The first thing the cops like to release is an interview because they want to show how smart they were. Hey,
Mhm.
look at this. Look at this guy thought he was going to get something over on us. Look at him sitting there, and he doesn't know, we got they usually release that. Well, why don't they want to release it? It's like, it's not just the judge who won't unseal the case. It's also the city of Moscow and the Moscow Police Department who are fighting like Dickens to keep the case under seal in the EWU case.
Oh, yeah, I can't wait to see that one. And obviously the Gonzalez versus WSU. I Oh my gosh, now they've publicly said that they're ready to go to court. They're not afraid to be in the courtroom, and that Kohberger's a narcissist, and they did an interview with Kevin Fixler this afternoon with the Idaho Statesman. So there's a lot out there now that wasn't out there this morning when it was first reported. So yeah, I'm just going to keep watching and waiting for something to happen. Remember, filing a motion is not a win. You still have
No.
to go through the process for everyone who just jumped in.
It's funny that this week, and I've reported that this was a big week for the 3 cases I think are implicated here, not just 2.
Mhm.
Today was supposed to be the deadline for WSU or the plaintiffs in WSU to amend their pleadings. If, let's just say, WSU, 7 months in, they want to sue the plaintiffs for some reason, or the plaintiffs want to add additional claims, drop claims. Today was the deadline. Tomorrow, the initial brief on the merits in Schofield versus Guillard is due. Let's get back to that in a second. Then Friday, we got the reply brief in EWU. It's like all 3 of these cases. Schofield versus Guillard. She tried to enter the case. I'm talking Guillard last May, right about the time that everything exploded with the Dateline situation. And she needed documents that were under seal. And she asked for it. Judge Hibbler struck her motion, told her to go file a public records request, right? And so she couldn't get documents, and $20 million verdict against her, defamation of character. That was, so she's appealing it. How is that going to implicate Schofield versus Guillard? That is in the 9th Circuit Court of Appeal right now. So we got 3 cases: Gonzalez versus WSU, Schofield versus Guillard, the Idaho 4 defamation appeal, and also EWU Media versus City of Moscow, Moscow Police Department.
I hope we see some good stuff. This is actually the statements that Kevin Fixler was able to reach these individuals today. And the Idaho Attorney General, Raul Labrador, these were all by phone calls today. And he says, "My heart goes out to the families of Madison, Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan, who have already endured imaginable loss. And now we must face today's deepest painful news. My office stands ready to do whatever is necessary to ensure justice is fully carried out. Latah Sheriff's Office says we are saddened by the recent news that admitted murderer of Maddie, Kaylee, Ethan, and Xana continues his efforts to victimize their families and friends. Our office is prepared to defend a well-deserved convictions and sentences to ensure justice prevails." And then obviously the G family via their attorney, Shannon Gray, read today he appeared in court for a hearing before the judge, accompanied by his 4 lawyers. He chose not to leave his faith or facts in case to a jury. He never cried foul, never claimed he was uninformed or pressured, and never suggested there were problems with discovery materials he and his counsel had reviewed for 2 years that should have been challenged. He admitted his guilt whenever obviously he was asked if he was actually guilty. He said yes. But you're right, Kathy. Why did they not read the documents? Who did not look at the documents that he agreed to and read them and look as if there was some confusion in what he filled out?
You know what? I that's a good question. Also, Sarah, I'm learning so much here. You're breaking so much news here right now in real time. Where's Bill Thompson's statement? Where's the statement from We got the sheriff's office. How about the prosecutor from Lake County? Where's
Nothing yet. No
Because
comments.
he's responsible for taking, we could be talking into next month about the affidavit of probable cause, but he took that affidavit of probable cause. He swore out a criminal complaint. This is all the 29th of December, day one of the case, and took it to Judge Marshall and convinced Judge Marshall to find probable cause and issue the warrant. We're here today. Hey, that PCA doesn't get filed. We don't know who Kohberger is. It got filed because Bill Thompson filed it. Bill Thompson walked through that crime scene many times with Ashley Jennings. You got Smith in the kitchen making like it's his conference room. I was waiting for him to bring in his recliner and his flat screen TV in there. He was having he was told, you watch that back door. That means you stand outside. You don't contaminate the crime scene, going in and out the point of entry, allegedly. You got the other one walking in, walks out, walks over the footprints that he took photographs of, him and the other one, the canine cop. They were walking in. It was like, didn't you ever hear you want to not contaminate the crime scene? I want to know how much ISPLE found of the Moscow Police Department's DNA when they processed it. Because from what I saw, they were in and out of that crime scene, up and down. You clear the house, you find out what you have in terms of victims, you make sure that there's no body in there hiding somewhere, and then you secure the crime scene until ISP can come in and process it. And that could only happen after we saw Nunez. He left, he went back to the MPD, he filled out the affidavit. They got the warrant to be able to go into this personal private property because they're going to be having to take things out. ISP didn't start processing until 5:30 p.m.
After 5. Yeah, I mean, just this case from the beginning, even Chief Fry said he wasn't going to go to the crime scene and contaminate it. So this was after it was already contaminated. But Bill Thompson, Oxygen.com, they just released an article. They said they reached out to Lehigh County prosecuting Bill Thompson, and he did not receive any immediate reply.
I bet they didn't.
No. I can't wait to hear this one. All right, girl. Thank you so much for jumping on here, girl. Lady.
We'll do a follow-up after.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay? At some point down the line. Thanks, Phoenix.
Absolutely.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
You are welcome. Thank you, Kathy. We enjoy you. We appreciate you. And so what did the G's respond? This was the G's response. Kathy is amazing. Give it up for Kathy. I know that there is going to be a load of doo-doo flinging as we go along. But some of these people that follow the G page, they say, first off, we're not surprised. Even though Bill Thompson said the plea deal, all appeals would be waived. You don't give up your right to a PCR, folks. We knew that wasn't factual. Anyway, his time to appeal was running out, September to be exact. The G family statement. The mosquito you just can't seem to swat. That is what Kohberger and his following have become to this family. We read Mr. Baker's story. That was the story that broke this morning in the New York Times. Mr. Baker is an independent. He is an amazing researcher and investigative. We read Mr. Baker's story, and he must be so proud of himself for speaking with Mr. Kohberger, because the story didn't have much else in it other than a guilty man claiming his innocence once again. He's never claimed his innocence. He's never said a goddamn word to the media. So we can just X all that out. Nothing in the story or Kohberger's statement does he allude to the fact he did not knowingly, voluntarily, or intelligently admit to murdering the 4 victims. Did they not read the documents that I just shared with you that Kathy and I just talked about? Kaylee, Maddie, Xana, and Ethan. It's like selective CRS. Can't remember shit, or just selective, right? Quote to the contrary, he appeared in court in a hearing in front of a judge with his 4 lawyers. He did after deciding not to leave his fate and the facts of the case to the jury and decide his guilt. He never cried wolf or claimed he was uninformed. This is coming from somebody who is pushing the death penalty, okay? pushing the death penalty, folks. What if her son was wrongly accused and it was her son on the other end of this? I mean, obviously, they have to read everything and not just be biased to read one thing, in my opinion. He admitted to guilt and asked where he was actually guilty. He said, yes, I am sure there will be a hearing, as that is how the legal process works. Now, wait a minute. Don't tell me the G family was not given the heads up, because I was told their family all met on Friday, guys. I've got ears and eyes all over Moscow, all over Coeur d'Alene, all over Rathdrum, and I was told by a very knowledgeable, reputable source that the family met on Friday. They knew this was coming. And if you look at the document that Kohberger filed, hello, what date did he sign on this document that I could honestly say for sure the family was told probably late Friday afternoon? I don't blow smoke. You know me. I don't blow smoke. And obviously this person that I have many sources, do you think they're going to come up and out themselves? No. But just trust me when I say this, because it is right here in black and white, Kohberger's signature. And what does the date say? Well, let's just take a peek. The 22nd. The 22nd. He signed it and certified it. And what day was the 22nd? What day was the 22nd, folks? Wednesday. That was last Wednesday. And I was told the family met on Friday. And today they filed it in the court repository. So they had to have known. They had to have known this was coming because they had their attorney make a statement. So he admitted guilt. And I'm sure there'll be a hearing. And that's how the legal process works for the defendant. They'll get another day in court, a nice break from his solitary confinement, getting to go for a ride, maybe some different food, photos taken, and attention all back on him and his innocence. He never claimed his innocence. The judge entered not guilty for him. This is the first time he has stood up and said, I am not guilty. Then they go on to say the real issue is that if much energy, he can put as much energy into honoring the victims in this case as trying to set a guilty man go free, that the statues of the victims would be in every corner with parks and honoring the ultimate sacrifice of their lives at the hand of a narcissist. Regarding of how this turns out, our family is 100% ready. Why don't they put their money where their mouth is? Why don't they help out, get their sponsors for the cold case nonprofit that they're all excited about, and why not help figure out who did this if he's claiming his innocence? And then she goes on to say, an actual trial this time, let's go. We're confident he will get the death penalty, and he escaped by pleading guilty the first time around. Just an absolute waste of time and taxpayers' money. No, they can go ahead and then purport their alleged help me pay for the trial all over again and gain another what? $85,000, folks? Are they going to boo-hoo their way to another bank account? It's a disgrace. So now we're moving on. I guess I better get me a Death Row Records shirt for every day of this week now. Now, you know what's so disgusting about this is the actual 6,900 people like this, whatever she's saying. It's kind of like the hate train. And then they're saying, firing squad, let's go. 266 people hit like on Gabby's comment. I wonder sometimes, who are these people? Do they not know? Have they not read the documents and looked at the evidence? Looked at the crime scene photos? Have a logical brain in their head? I mean, I have to wonder who's making all these comments. Oh, yes. And she did state Mr. Kohberger now. That's a sign of respect. She didn't call him an inmate number. Mr. Kohberger. Now it's Mr. Kohberger. Everyone wanted a trial. Let's hope we get a trial. Let's hope they dish out another 10 million, right? Like the Tyler Robinson's case. Let's see if they dish out another 10 million to get a new case. Maybe he will get some decent meals. Maybe he'll get what he was promised, which I still wonder what the heck he was promised. I'm going to keep digging. I do have a live stream for tomorrow. We are going to dig into something, and it's the timeline before the actual, well, you'll just have to tune in to hear. I'm going to drop that there. And keep in mind, there are a lot of people unhappy out there with some of the response. We're not scared of a trial. All right. We haven't seen Bill Thompson respond. The Latah County Sheriff responded. The AG of the Idaho state responded. I don't see anybody else responding. Where's Cy Ray? Where's Chris Wickham? Where's Brent Turvey? Brent Turvey follows me on TikTok. He liked the post too. He liked my post that I played this morning, and I showed you factually. Now, we're not throwing stones. If you live in a glass house, you definitely don't want to throw some stones. But I'm just telling you, it's true. It's absolutely true. Where are the people that put him in this position? Where are the people that are going to stand by him? Now, remember, he is pro se at this point unless they're going to go ahead and give him some counsel. And I hope that they have somebody with a set of cojones that are actually going to do the right thing in this case and do right by Mr. Kohberger. You are presumed innocent in a court of law until proven guilty. So I'm going to keep on. We're going to keep on watching. We're going to keep on waiting. And yeah, all the things that this family has done to this individual, even though we have receipts, forensics, questions. I mean, drop your questions below. We are going to dig deep tomorrow. I know a lot of you got to go. I got to go. I got to go and get, yeah, right? Yeah, Beltran. That's exactly one thing that we will do. We will definitely do this. All right. So do me a favor, you guys. Like, love, hype. You know the drill. We are definitely going to rock this one out. I appreciate every single one of you. Share, and share. And I don't care what the bridge is saying over on TikTok. Colin Turvey. All the trolls are scrolling and out. Be well. Stay safe on the streets, y'all. If he was forced, we're going to have to watch the unforcing and look for what actually happened in the truth. What in the world? What happened? All right, y'all be well. And thank you so much, my mods. You guys are all amazing. What an amazing time with you. What an amazing time. Just freaking awesome. Kathy and I will do a follow-up. Y'all, love on your neighbor, your family, your friends. This could happen to anybody, just like this happened to Brian Kohberger. Wrong place, wrong time, forced, coerced, manipulated. That's basically what he is saying. That's what he's saying. Y'all, be well.
Yeah, this is my road. Let it roll. Pack my dreams in a beat up leather case. Left the dust of that suffocating place. They said a girl like me should stay in line, but I'd rather lose their map than lose my mind. Tune the radio to a station playing wild and free. Windows down, smelling like the pine trees. 500 miles and I'm just getting started. Say goodbye to the heavy-hearted. Oh, nobody's holding the reins tonight. I'm chasing the edge of the morning light. This is my highway, my own fly. No, yeah, the lines can tie me down. I'm leaving my tracks all over this town. Freedom, freedom, yeah. Now they call me an outlaw, call me a breeze, shaking the leaves right off of the trees. Ain't no speed limits on the choices I make, with every single risk that I happily take. Got a heart like an engine, loud and true, writing my own rules. Nothing brand new, just an old soul singing with the modern beat, dusting off the pavement under my feet. This is my highway, my open sky. I've got the wind, can tie me down. I'm leaving my tracks all over this town. Freedom, freedom, yeah, ooh, yeah. And if I get lost in the dark of the night, I know my own stars will show me the light. No more shadows to cover my face. I'm running my pace, I'm winning my race. Freedom, yeah, just let it roll.